We're not gonna take it. They should have made that the campaign theme song, in my humble opinion. Because I ain't taking this shit. Okay, y'all, today I ain't got no introduction because I'm just tired. I'm really tired. Are you tired? Because I'm tired. Jesus, I'm tired. Help me, Holy Ghost. So I ain't got no introduction for y'all. I'm just gonna dive straight into it. Okay? Is that all right? All right, let's talk about something that's real uplifting today. Eugenics. Yep, we're diving into the world of good genes, bad genes, and spoiler alert, it's gonna get real weird. Now, before you click off the video thinking that we're just talking about science, number one, this is not science. Let me say it again for the people in the back. This is not science. Let's be crystal clear. This is not about science. It's not about any sort of rigorous academic inquiry. It's not peer reviewed. It's about politics. It's about immigration. It's about who's in and who's out. It's about your Uncle Steve's favorite topic at Thanksgiving, racist dog whistles. So what is eugenics? It sounds fancy, right? Like some kind of high-tech skincare, but no, it's not that. Eugenics is actually the pseudoscience. Yes, pseudo, that means it's fake. It's a sham. It's a pseudoscience that says that we can improve the human race by selecting which people get to have babies. Oh, but who gets to decide that, you ask? Well, historically, it's been a bunch of old racist white men who were real obsessed with blonde hair and blue eyes. Sound familiar? If you're thinking this sounds a lot like the plot to every dystopian novel, congratulations. You're already smarter than most eugenicists. Of course, this pseudoscience was a huge part of the Nazi ideology. Hitler was all about the good genes. He used eugenics to justify one of the worst atrocities in human history, the Holocaust. And yes, this is where we talk about how language that seems innocuous or just plain stupid can lead to real bad consequences. Do you think that the bad genes comments that we're hearing today don't matter? Spoiler alert again. This is history trying to sneak back into our lives like that fly at your summer barbecue. If you ignore it, your potato salad will get ruined. That is, if nobody put raisins in it before they brought it. If you put raisins in your potato salad, you should not be bringing potato salad. It was ruined from the start. Give it to the flies. Let them eat it. They're not destroying it. They're helping it. Because we ain't about to eat it. But anyways, let's fast forward to more modern times, where the language is somehow making a comeback. Just this week, y'all's best friend Donald Trump went on a rant about immigrants, claiming that they brought bad genes into the country, that we had all kind of bad genes floating around. But here's the thing, folks. This isn't just an offhanded comment. It's a callback to some real dangerous ideas. When someone in power says bad genes, they're not just being weirdly specific about who gets to be America's next top model. They may not be saying eugenics allowed, but the code is crystal clear. So let's not pretend that these good genes comments were just some sort of theoretical exercise by Donald Trump, because God knows he couldn't think about theory to save his life. But neither is it something that happened somewhere else, in another country, in another time. No, this mess has real brutal consequences, especially for people of color in America. You don't believe me? Okay, just watch. Because if you know me, you know me well. If there's one thing that I love, and I love most, it's a good receipt. A recept, if you will. Receipt number one. This thing called forced sterilizations. Did you know that between the 1920s and 1970s, thousands of black women were forcibly sterilized without their consent under state-run programs? States like, surprise, surprise, North Carolina went wild with it, thinking they could improve society by stopping black women from having children. That's called eugenics. But I call it what it is, assault and racial violence. It's just racist violence. It's not even racial. Racial sounds too polished. This wasn't just a bad idea on paper. It was real life. And it happened to thousands of black women. Receipt number two, the Tuskegee syphilis study. You may have heard of this one. It was that time that the U.S. government thought that it was a great idea to let hundreds of black men suffer through untreated syphilis just to see what would happen. 40 years of letting people die slowly so that somebody could scribble down some notes on a pad. All because they thought that black men were expendable, less human, and worth experimenting on. Does it sound familiar yet? Receipt number three. Let's talk about the racial science that literally justified slavery. And that's science in air quotes. Slave owners and their so-called scientists argued that black people were biologically made for hard labor and were naturally inferior. That's the kind of eugenics-inspired junk that puts chains on people. Have you heard of Saartjie Baartman or Sarah Baartman? Or maybe you know her as the Hottentot Venus. As an introduction for some and a reminder for others, she was the black woman that was paraded around Europe like a circus sideshow just because some white men thought that her body was something to be studied. These narratives justified the horrors of slavery and dehumanized entire races. And here's the thing. This isn't just ancient history. We're not just talking about dusty old textbooks or black and white or sepia tone photos. This isn't just rhetoric. This is real life, y'all. It's alive and it's still dangerous. Which brings us back to our favorite presidential candidate, Donald Trump. This isn't new for him. He's been dropping these dog whistles for years, from praising good genes to labeling certain immigrants as having bad genes. Trump keeps resurrecting this coded language that reeks of eugenics, racism, and the worst parts of our shared human history. And some of y'all are still trying to vote for this man. I'm not going to be mad today. On my good days, I'm able to be a little empathetic. On my good days, I'm able to say, well, here's some logic. Here's what their cultural experience is. As a DEI practitioner, I have to do that every single day. But sometimes I've seen one too many clients and I'm tired. I've smiled through too much racism for the day, and it irks my soul. At this point in the election cycle, for as much as we've seen and we've heard from Donald J. Trump, how he's been willing to tell lies in the midst of two of the worst hurricanes to ever hit our country for his own political gain that harms the people that vote for him most. And they're still voting for him. To see people at a rally with two billionaires on the stage, one real billionaire, one fake billionaire. I'll let you be the judge of who's who. It's like Donald Trump and Elon Musk make more in 1 year than most of the folks at that rally will make in their lifetime. To see two billionaires talk about cutting overtime pay in front of folks who rely on that for Christmas, who rely on that for odds and ends, and they're cheering for this shit. I'm sorry, it gets me mad. But on my best days, I try to exercise understanding. Because here's the reality, y'all. At the end of this election, we're going to have to deal with this. Whether Donald Trump wins or whether Kamala Harris wins, we're going to have to deal with the fact that we live in this polarized country. We're going to have to exercise compassion. And my perspective is that after the election, we're going to be in a space where we have to figure out how do we heal collectively. We're going to have to figure out how do we build bridges, how do we connect with one another. What we have to be able to do after this election is heal our country, heal our communities, heal our relationships. We got some folks that are like deep inside of a cult. And I'm not saying that folks that are in the Democratic Party are perfect or not exhibiting cult-like behavior as well. I'm an independent politically, but because of how things have shaken up in the last few years, I only have one option. But we still have to figure out how do we heal our communities and our families and our friendships with folks who have like drank the Kool-Aid. And so I want to give some tips today for trying to exercise empathy for folks who do vote for this man. I know it's hard. Don't tune out. It's necessary because you got some folks that you're about to see at Thanksgiving and you need to know this. I'm trying to give you a starting point to understand the reasons why folks still support Donald Trump. Number one is identity politics. Contrary to popular belief, it is not the Democratic Party that engages in identity politics, at least not solely. The Republicans do their own form of this as well. Every cultural grievance that we hear is about identity politics. So the first one is identity politics. It's that sweet, sweet comfort of knowing that someone's fighting for the old ways to make America great again, aka implement racist policies that are disguised as national security. It taps into the fears about immigration, about jobs, and the scary, scary idea that white people might not be in charge of everything forever and ever. Amen. I'm not trying to trivialize this. This is some people's real fear. They turn on the TV and they see black and brown people everywhere now. They used to be able to turn on the TV and not see a single black person except if they were serving like a waiter or a serving staff or a sort of comedic relief character. And now they see us all the time everywhere, terrified. There's always a gay storyline, always a trans storyline. And they don't have a sense of identity and purpose beyond being in power and being at the center of the narrative. So that's one reason folks are voting for Donald Trump. Identity politics is their version of DEI. Because DEI just ain't for black and brown people. It's not just for gay and lesbian people. It's not just for women. It's not just for international folks. It's not just for immigrants. White folks, y'all are DEI too. Because it's a bunch of neurological diversity in y'all's communities. But that's a different conversation. That's another video. Let me focus. The second reason that folks are voting for Donald Trump is what I like to call the media bubble wrap. A lot of Donald Trump supporters get their news from the sources, and you know some of this already. I'm not going to insult your intelligence, but I'm just trying to remind you that they get their news from sources that either defend his comments, twist them, or just lie just like he does and repeat them over and over and over again. They try to twist his words to normalize and to sane wash them, to say it's just tough talk. It's just locker room talk. He doesn't mean any harm. He's not really going to do this. You know that thing that your grandmama does when she's just being honest about your bad haircut, but way worse and with actual consequences. Third reason, because I don't want to spend too much time here. You already know some of this. It's emotional loyalty. People love an outsider, especially one who promises to drain a swamp, even if it turns out that he's just an alligator moving into the swamp and bringing a few more of his alligator cousins, sons, daughters, son-in-laws, daughter-in-laws with him. For some voters, Trump represents a defense against political correctness, against globalism, and let's be honest, progress. They'll forgive anything as long as he keeps telling them that they're the real victims. That personal grievance politics. Everything is a personal affront. Everything is always about me. And how could you call me racist for drinking Mountain Dew? Nobody's calling you racist for drinking Mountain Dew. I'm calling you racist for saying that shit. This stuff makes my head hurt. It makes my head hurt. But this is not just about one person spouting off nonsense. I wish it were just still one person, but it's at least 47% of the country, according to the polls. What is actually at stake is how dangerous this rhetoric is for all of us. It's divisive, it's harmful, and it pushes us back toward those eugenics-era ideas that we know lead to atrocities like the Holocaust. And the stakes are pretty high, extremely high. Speaking of high stakes, Kamala Harris, our vice president, is a regular target for this kind of coded language. When people question her qualifications, it's often less about her resume and more about what she looks like and where she's from. That's the other side of this coded language. It's not just about immigrants. It's about people of color in positions of power. And the message is, are they really fit to lead? Translation, how dare this Black and South Asian woman think she could run the country? It's tired, it's lazy, and frankly, it's racist. It's just so tired. It's just so tired. So what do? Step one, don't fall for that shit. Start questioning the media that you consume. Is it feeding you fear? I'm trying to help somebody. I doubt that the algorithm gives the Trump supporters these videos. Every once in a while, they'll come into my comments, but I think they're just bots. So let this help you with Thanksgiving. These are the steps. Number one, don't fall for the bullshit. Start questioning the media that you consume. Is it feeding you fear? Is it validating your stereotypes instead of challenging them? Hello, somebody. I'm trying to help you. Step number two, talk to people. Talk to folks outside of your zip code, outside of your area code. If you're someone who doesn't believe in the MAGA ideology, but you know that your cousin does, talk to them about the stories of those who've been impacted by this rhetoric. If they have an ounce of humanity left in them, that should touch them. Show them how eugenics and all this coded language isn't just academic jargon. It's a slippery slope to real life altering harm. And the reality is the last one is the one I keep returning to until November the 5th and beyond, is we got to vote, we got to speak out, and we got to commit to keep learning. One of the things that I try to do for myself is to stay humble. And the reality is the moment that you think that you've arrived, the moment that you think that you have it all figured out, you're the furthest away from having it figured out, because you're just the flip side of the coin at that point. So commit to continuing to learn, to grow, to change. Remember that bad ideas, just like bad genes, those so-called bad genes, they thrive in silence. But when we challenge them, they crumble faster than any bad Tinder date ever could. Swipe left, swipe right. So raise a glass to calling out the bullshit, pushing back against history's worst ideas, and building a future where we all get to thrive. Genes be damned. Thanks for hanging out, folks. I'll see you soon. Peace.